Once I do that, then I'm going to go ahead. There we go. It's starting to record. And now I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. And okay. And where is... There we go. Okay. Julie, can you confirm that you see the...
Yes, it looks
okay.
good.
Okay. So again, this is the Folio Bootcamp. And again, this is just to show very basically what we're going to try and cover over a period of 2 hours. The first 15 minutes, we're going to cover talking about the course template and uploading a syllabus, how to create and edit content pages. The next section, we're going to talk about the gradebook, and that's probably the biggest chunk of this. It's a little bit more involved, and don't worry if you don't quite get everything regarding the gradebook. Julie and I have talked about this before. When we were first learning how to use the gradebook, we had to attend probably 2 or 3 different sessions, and there are still times that we still need a little bit help on. So it's a bit of a, so don't worry about that. Ask questions. If we don't have an answer, we'll contact LTS and get back to you. The next section, we're going to talk about quizzes, setting up quizzes, navigating Folio, communicating with students. And the last section is talking about creating videos, working with videos. And we basically left only about 5 minutes for questions. That there might be more or less time depending on how we run through this. Okay. And again, this is basically our objectives for what we're going to cover in the first hour. The first thing, why don't we just, to get out of the way, you may or may not be familiar with the badges program that the CTE offers, and what I'm going to do is going to show this here. This is basically a badge is something that, and you would get qualified for 2 hours of a technology badge. It says 1 hour, but it's actually 2 hours because it's a 2-hour webinar. But after each webinar that you attend, or you would fill out an action plan, and then once you've completed 4 hours in different areas, you would submit a capstone of reflection. And there's more information if you go, here's the CTE website. If I go right here to the badges, this gives you a lot more information explaining, here's a link to the action plan, a capstone reflection, final submission. So you have a lot more information about which webinars are offered. There's evidence-based training, teaching with technology. Again, that's what this is part of, and mostly what Julie and I and many of the other IDs on the Statesboro campus go through. Again, so this is just something to look through. Again, this is not required. This is for your own professional development, and it's something that you'd receive a badge, and it's not a certificate, but it's a badge that you can keep for your records. Okay, so just wanted to cover that quickly. Let me go back to what we're going to cover right here. So the first is that we're going to talk about is the Folio course template, and also working with the syllabus. So I'm going to go to my, okay, here's my the bootcamp course. Now, many of you are probably already familiar. You might have what's called a sandbox course that you can practice in and work with. And I think Julie has checked to set that up for people.
Yes.
And so afterwards, you're welcome to work with it. Some faculty use their sandbox course for developing classes, okay? And then they transfer content over to the actual live class that they're going to teach in. So that's something that you can do. And you can request a sandbox course through LTS. Just contact the help desk and they'll do that. Okay. So we're going to go and import what's called the Folio template, which is basically, if I look here in this bootcamp course, there's really no content. It's basically a blank shell. And the template basically brings in modules from 1 through 16 and other content that you can possibly use in the building of your own course. And there's recommendations and some instruction that helps you to do that. And what we're going to do first is to actually download the template from the CTE website, okay, because it's a zip file that you can access from our website. And so if you go to our website, there's this link here, Folio. And if I click this link, there's a lot of information here that basically gives you information about here, what kind of, what you can get from the use of these. It allows for flexible design and structure. Those who are familiar with Quality Matters and the rubric standards, it addresses many of these standards. It's compliant with your web accessibility guidelines, and that's very important. It's based on research and best practices. It actually contains Georgia Southern branding, and I'll show you that once we get into the template itself. And it's a very easy to edit and adapt to your own teaching style. Again, these are just basically, it's a template that allows you to use as much or as little as you'd like, and but it gives you a good basis and background for building your course. And again, here's instructions on what to do if you want to follow through. But here's this, I'm going to click this link to download the template, and I'm just going to opt to save the file. And generally it's a zip file that's going to go to my downloads folder, okay? And that's all you do. You don't open the zip file, you just leave it in your downloads folder. And the next step is to go back into the course. Okay, so here from the very top, there's this line of links. The third option here is called Edit Course. And we're going to go into that a little bit later for another thing. But this option here, you want to look for under Site Resources, the main heading here, Import, Export, Copy Components. And I'm going to click that link. And this option here, the first option, we're not going to use now, but this is used for transferring content from, say, from a fall course into a spring course, and so you can just bring everything over and then make adjustments as needed. You can also use it for if you're building a course in a sandbox, then you can bring things over, okay? But we're going to actually go to the last option, Import Components, and click the Start button here. And you get this little window to select a file. And I'm going to go ahead and click Upload. And I want to navigate to my Downloads folder. And I want to look for the Folio template. Here it is right here. Okay, it looks like I have 2 copies of it. This must be the most recent one, but I'm going to select the template and click Open, and you can see it listed right here. And all you do is click the import all components, and it will bring everything in. It takes a few minutes to do that. And when it's done, you'll get a message that it's ready. So we'll just wait a minute or so. Okay, it's still importing. Oh, there we go. So I got a message that it was imported. So I'm going to go to the option of view the content. Okay, so I'll click that. And it's going to bring me to the content. Now you could see along the left-hand side, the table of contents, all these modules are now put in place, 1 through 16. Again, you may not need all these modules, or you might, depending on how you organize your class. If you do it by week, and you're doing a full semester, you might use module all of them. If you do it by topic, you might decide to change this, and we'll show you that you can change this title here to reflect the kind of organization that you're going to have in your course. There's also a course orientation and start here module. Okay, and this gives, again, I'll open this up. Here's an area for you to put in an introduction, some course goals, learning activities for for this specific module, a task list, and all of these. It may be difficult to see, but there's blue text here that gives you information about, basically gives you some idea of what you could possibly use this for. Okay, there's also a welcome page. Okay, so you can add, if you want to add a welcome information, a study guide, okay, for the course orientation module. And this is a web-based syllabus, so you may choose to use this, or you may choose not to. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and upload a Word or a PDF-based syllabus shortly. So you don't have to use this. The advantage of using a web-based syllabus is that it's easy to make edits. So if you're making changes down the road, you could very quickly and easily make changes on the page once you've built it out, as opposed to deleting. If you uploaded a Word document or whatever, you'd have to delete it, make a change, and then re-upload it again. Okay. There's a course schedule that's built in place that you can choose to use. Okay. There is a course structure, which gives students an idea. This is something that's very nice to use. This is actually helping students to navigate Folio. Okay, so it's a video that the CT has prepared to help students know how to navigate Folio, especially helpful for students who have never taken an online course before in Folio. And then there's a communications policy page that you can edit. There's a campus technology page, and this I would probably leave in place even if you choose not to use many of the others, but this gives information for students what to do for if they need help. There's information about accessibility for many of the tools, technical support, and also privacy. And then there's this academic research and information literacy page that I would suggest leaving in because that's helpful. And then student support. So this gives information for academic support, university academics, the library, student services support. Here's for the SARC Center, and then the student code of conduct and academic honesty. So those are very helpful things to put in place. And then I think the final thing is just that many faculty like to use in their online courses is to include an introduction, a student introduction, and this can be edited to tell students what it is that you want them to say in their introduction. If I go to and I'll just show you a module. Again, all the modules are the same. There's an introduction page that you can use, again, for learning objectives, give you some text-based content. There's a lecture page. A study guide page is the next one. Then there's a lecture page. Okay. And there's a instruction page for if you use discussions. And there's a lecture a page for assignment, Dropbox assignments. And basically then it goes into module 2. Okay, so all of these are the same. Okay, so let me just check. Is there any questions at this point before I know that's a lot of information, but I want to make sure that
no questions yet.
Okay. Let's see. So we want to, let's do the syllabus. Okay. And what I want to do is let's go to content. And I'm going to go to this course orientation, start here. And this would be a good place where you would put your syllabus. Again, you can use the web-based page, but say if you want to upload a syllabus to your module, what you want to do is select new and then upload a file up to the very top here. And you want to search your computer for a syllabus. And let me see if I can. I'm not always very lucky about finding a syllabus. Let me see if I can find okay, well, I'm not finding. Let's just take a PDF of any kind.
There it is.
Oh, there it is, a Word doc. Okay, syllabus. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and add it. Okay, so this is a Word document, and what it does, anything that you load into bring up from your computer, it puts it at the bottom, but you can very easily change that. I'm going to click the little dots to the left and then just scroll it up to wherever I want it to be. Okay, so there's the syllabus, and say I don't want this link anymore, and this could be done for any of these others. If I want to delete this page, I'm going to go ahead from this down arrow. There's this option to delete the topic, and I would leave there. They give you two options. If you permanently delete it, I would probably leave the first option alone, because it removes it from the view of a student, but it keeps it on the back end of files in Folio. So I'm going to select delete, and then it disappears. Okay. So that's the Folio template and the syllabus. Now we're going to go ahead and make edit the let's go first do a very quick thing. We're going to edit change this title right here. So say if you don't want to use modules and you want to say week 1, you can just click the link here, and I'm going to say week 1, and then you can change the title, introduction to whatever, and I'm going to click outside, and then you can see along the table of contents it's changed the name, so that you could do the same for each of these individual web pages too. But from the web page, you need to go down and edit properties in place, and then you can do right here. then you can edit this web page. So you can change the name of these pages or to the module as how you organize your class. Okay. Now to edit the actual module, those pages, okay, so let's go into this module 1 introduction, and let's say I want to edit this content right here. If you scroll down, there's this button called Edit HTML, and when it opens up, here you have the option, you can take this and remove it, okay, and then you can go ahead and type in whatever you choose, okay. So you can choose to type in, okay, and if you look to see, one of the things that we mentioned about the Folio template, number one, the headings are set for the best usability and accessibility. This is a header 1 style. The next set is for a header 2 style. The text is a sans serif font so that it's easier to read, and then the size of the font is set specifically. And it also, this was what I mentioned, this is the Georgia Southern branding. So all the template pages will have this Georgia Southern branding if you use the template, okay? But now you may not want to actually type everything in. You could actually create your content on a Word document and then copy and paste that in. So let's go ahead and again, let me see if I could find, I know I have a, okay, here it is. Okay, so here's some text that I found online, the Gettysburg Address. You can see that this is in Times New Roman, which is a serif font. And again, serif is not usually recommended for digital web-based kind of viewing. It's a little bit harder to read. But what I'm going to do is copy, and I'm going to go back to the page. And what I'm going to do is put my mouse cursor where I want that text to appear, and I'm going to paste it in, Control V, and you get this little window calls formatting options, paste formatting options. You always want to use remove formatting, because by doing this, you're removing the formatting that was used in Word and replacing it with the template formatting. So if I do that, you can see now that what is created is the formatting, the font and the style and the size that's built for the template. Okay, and what I'm going to do, just to show you the difference, I'm going to paste it in again, but I'm going to select keep formatting. Okay, so here's that same formatting from the Word document. I'm going to save and close. Okay, now you can see here that this is easier to read than this text down here, the Times New Roman document. So always remember to use the remove formatting, and everything will keep in place. Okay, so that's the okay, that's not what I want. Let's go here. Okay, so add a new template content page. So, okay, say if you, here we put in line one lecture page. You may want to have an extra lecture page, or you may want to, add more modules and add lecture pages or other pages in. You can do this by just saying create a file, but by doing this, it doesn't keep the formatting, the template formatting. So the recommended way to do this is I'm going to select new, create a file, but you choose this browse for a template. Okay. And I'm going to go select course offering files. And again, the very first option, the HTML template pages, I'm going to select that. And I want to add in a new lecture page. See, here's all the different, you could have an assignment instructions, discussion, a generic page, an introduction, a lecture page, a study guide. All of these contain the formatting and the Georgia Southern branding. I'm going to select the lecture page, select add, and you can see there's the branding. But before you do anything else, you don't want to save it yet. You want to give it, name it, give it a title. And even if you just do lecture 1, I'm just, until you're not sure, I'm going to say lecture 2, part 2, until you decide what you want to do with it. You need to change the name before you save it, because otherwise it might write over other content. So what I'm going to do is, let's go to the week 1 introduction. There's that, it put it at the bottom, and I'm going to choose to move it up. Let's go there. There we go. So I moved it up to right after. And again, this is where you can choose to change the name, you know, whether it's, whether you give it a more specific title, you know, or whether you just call it module 1, lecture 1, module 1, lecture 2, whatever, you know. So, and again, if I click here, you see it, you have all this content with the template formatting. Okay. Now the other thing is to actually do a, we want to delete a content page. And I think we kind of did that earlier. Let's go to module 2. We'll stay with module 1, and I'm going to delete this page that I just inserted. And again, from the down arrow, you delete topic. Again, you can choose just to delete. I would always select this so that in case you want to bring it back, you can choose to do so. If you choose permanently delete it, then everything, you'll have to start over to rebuild that page again. So I delete it. So that's deleting a page. For deleting a module, and say you choose you're not going to end up using all these modules. If I click the table of contents, again from this module, from this title up here, select down, and I'm going to select delete the module. Again, the same thing. I'm going to just delete, and it'll move that from, it'll just dip, it's gone. So now module 16 is gone. Okay. So let's go ahead, because we're getting a little bit behind. We'll start talking about the gradebook. Okay. Any questions before we move forward to the gradebook?
No questions.
Okay. So what we want to do, the first thing is let's create, we'll set up the gradebook. Okay. Now there is on the upper line of links, the second option, grades, and I select grades, there's this what's called the setup wizard. Okay, and this is helpful to get to sort of start off, because it sets your gradebook up. Okay.
Stephen, can I just mention, before you start setting up your gradebook, the best place to start actually is to take a look at your syllabus and look at how you have your assessments set up, what type of assessments, where it's quizzes, discussions, assignments, and that'll be helpful as you walk through these steps to set up your grade book. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So there are 3 different options, and some faculty like to use percentages, the weighted system. Some use points. This I've not seen use that. It's a formula based, and if you're handy with creating formula type things through Excel, you can import it into, but we're going to focus on the 2 most common, and I'm going to start with just points right now. Okay, so I'm going to select continue, and step 2 is choosing the final grade that's released. Do you want the option? Do you want to use the grade that's calculated based on the grading formula that's set up? And it cannot be adjusted without editing the grade item scores, and we'll show you the grade items shortly and what that means. Choosing adjusted final grade allows you to modify grades before releasing them. So this might be the more useful one if you're more apt to make changes in student grades before they're released. This option is to automatically release the final grade. So this you may or may not want to release it. If you don't, that's fine. You can choose to release it at a different time. Grade calculations. So this is for, do you want to drop ungraded items? So if you have, say, 5 quizzes and students have only taken 2 of them so far, if you drop the ungraded quizzes, their score will not be affected. So if you choose to treat ungraded items as 0, then all the grades for those that even have not been taken will be listed as 0. And so their final grade, particularly if you have chosen to release final grades, will be a much lower grade value. So some faculty use that as kind of a way of making students want to improve and get better and better, and do well on the next quizzes. So you have to decide what you want to do, whether you choose to drop ungraded items. You can look at these little question marks next to it, and it gives you some information about what this is. So here, this one gives you items that have a grade inputted are not counted in the final grade. This one, items that do not have grade inputted are counted as 0 in the final grade. So I'm going to leave it as drop ungraded items. Automatically keep final grade updated. Again, I would generally recommend doing that, so that everything keeps updated as this term progresses. This step 4 is called a grade scheme. The default is a percentage grade scheme, which we don't have a way of making any changes. This has been chosen for us through the best system. So I would just ignore this and just move forward. That's the next step is, how many decimal points do you want to view in the grade book? Okay. So the default is 2 decimal points. You can choose more. You can choose 0 if you want. Okay. But then things will be rounded up. If you choose 0, will be rounded up, appropriately. The next step is for how students, what they will see in their grade book. Okay. Point grades, I'm going to select because we're using point grades. A grade scheme symbol. This basically shows a symbol in the grade book that doesn't really help students that much. It really is just more, there's no real legend. Here's how it's described, that this setting determines whether or not a grade scheme symbol is associated with a grade item. It doesn't really explain what the symbol is. So many faculty do choose not to use that. Grade scheme color, another thing that you may choose to use or not. And again, it puts in the grade book for the student. If they're doing well, they'll see a bluish color. If if they're maybe getting B's, they might be a green color. Then there's yellow and red. So dependent on again, there's not a legend. It's just more of a visual cue to do that, to put in place. Decimal points, the same thing. This is again for student view. If you want to leave it at the default, this is the grade, a number of characters for the text that's displayed in the grade book. The default is 15. You can make it shorter. I don't know if I would make it any longer than 15. And then final grade calculation. Do you want to display the final grade calculation to the users? And again, you can choose to not select it, and then you can go back in and choose to select it when you're ready. I'm going to go ahead and select continue. And then you get the next step is just a review of what you've done. You can go back and change it, or you can go select and finish. Okay. I know that's a lot, and again, this can be confusing. So don't feel that this is, that it's a little bit difficult. Feel free to ask questions or to reach out to us whenever, if you have questions about that. Okay. The next thing that we're going to talk about under grade options, once you've finished the setup wizard, we're going to create what's called a grade category. Now, a grade category basically is kind of an overreaching kind of umbrella of a type of assessment. So it could be exams, it could be quizzes, it could be assignments, it could be essays, it could be lab work,
Stephen.
Yep.
Hey, do you want to show an example of the managed grades in one of your other courses of categories and grade items?
Okay, let me do that. I'll go out of here. Let's see. Okay, this is an older course here. Under grades and grades, I'm going to do manage grades. This does not. It's interesting. Okay, this doesn't have it. Okay.
Right. More. I think it's the 2020 courses.
Okay.
That started using them.
Okay. Oh, that's from 19. You're right. That's the. Let's see. Teaching. Here we go. Okay. Grades. Manage grades. Okay, so here, this is from our Teaching Online course. I don't know if any of you have taken it or are in the process of taking it, but here is the grade category quizzes. And then these are the individual quiz grade items, okay? So they are indented underneath the main category of quizzes. Here's the grade category discussions. These are individual grade items of discussions. Again, here's assignments. And here's the individual assignment grade items. Okay, so this is what, and in the grade book, you as a faculty, as an instructor, will see it like this. Okay, you'll see quizzes with individual grade, with the grade items. As a student, and this is something that's helpful to see. You can, if you want to see what a student sees, if you click your name up here, you can do view a student, and I'm going to do click grades, grades, and you can see will see the same thing. Here's the quizzes, and it's all organized in line. Okay, so instead of just having like that first class that I showed you, one whole long list of quizzes, discussions, and assignments, and they could be all jumbled up, it makes it easier for students to find and to look to see, you know, how they're doing, and it makes it easier for you when in the process of grading. Okay, so creating these categories, and again, the grade items are really helpful in organizing the grade book. So I'm going to go into grades, grades. I'm still as a student. You have to remember to get yourself out as a student. So grades, grades, manage grades. So right now, these two here are default things. They're in place. You don't need to worry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and create under new, a new category, and I'm going to call this assignments. Okay. You can choose a shorter name, but I mean, that's assignments is fine. You can choose to add a description. That's fine. You know, you don't need to do that. You can choose that this whole category of assignments might exceed, say if you're using points and the total points for all your assignments might be 200. If you check that, it'll allow it to go exceed that amount. Okay, so select this option if you want users grades for the category to exceed the maximum value, so say 22. So if you're giving bonus points or whatever, you may choose to do that for the entire category. Exclude from final grade. Again, you may have a whole bank of maybe self-test quizzes that you're not going to count towards the grade, but you're still having students take. So if you select that, the self-test quizzes will not be included in the final grade. Distribution, this will tell you, if you select that, here you would choose how many, distribute points across all items. So this is if you want to evenly distribute. So say if I have 5 assignments and they're each going to be worth 10 points, the total amount will be end up being 50 points. If they're going to be different amounts, say if one quiz is going to be worth a different amount of points or whatever, you want to make sure you want to deselect that. This gives you the option to either drop the lowest item or to drop the highest item, you know, so you can choose if you want to do that. Student view, do you want to display the class average to users? This is, this is a graphical display of the grade distribution for that specific category. I'm not going to select that. I'm going to select save and close. And there's my assignments. Okay. Now the next step is to add all the assignments in place, the grade items. I'm going to do grade item, numeric. I'm going to call this assignment 1. Okay. Now here, this is how you indent this specific item under the grade category. This is what I just created, assignments. I'm going to select that. You can put a description. The maximum points is 10. Again, here you can choose, again, previously we did it for the whole category. Here is where you would choose for a specific grade item. You can add a rubric. Okay, again, it seems like it's duplicating things, but this is again for the grade item. If you've done these for the grade category, you really wouldn't want to duplicate it by add it there. I'm going to select save and close. And there's my assignment 1. And the next step, let me create one more grade item. I'm going to do assignment 2. Okay. Again, attach it to the category. I'm going to leave that as is. And I'm going to select save and close. Okay, so now I have my 2 assignments. So you would do the same thing for all of your kind of assessments. And what Julie had mentioned earlier, it's helpful to have your syllabus all pre-set up so that you know, as you're building this out, how many assignments you're going to have. If you have assignments, how many quizzes, discussions, whatever kind of projects that you're going to do. And that way you can go through and just build them out and have it ready, you know. So it's better to have your syllabus, you know, pretty much fleshed out. Okay. Now, the one thing that we want to do that's missing is to make what's called an association. You can see all of these are here. You have the type, it's numeric. Here it shows the points. This column here, association, is blank, is empty. Everything will work if you don't put an association in, but what will happen is that when a student actually does an assignment and submits it, if you don't associate a grade item with the actual assignment itself, you're going to have to manually enter the grades into the grade book. Okay, so an association allows for once you actually graded it and looked at you, it'll actually populate, automatically go into the grade book. So let's go to, I'm going to go under assessments up here because this is where and here's the Dropbox assessments. And all of these are pre-built. This is part of the template, assignment 1 through 8. Again, you can change the name of these as needed. I'm going to leave it the same because it's helpful to keep this name the same as the grade item that you just made. So so I'm going to go back to assessments, Dropbox. So here I'm going to go from the down arrow. I'm going to select edit folder. Okay. And here's where you build out your assignment. You can choose, you put in instructions. You can add an attachment if needed, record a video, an audio or video. You can choose to make this as an individual assignment or a group assignment. How many submissions are allowed, unlimited or just one file. Again, this is the score. We originally said that each assignment was going to be worth 10 points. So you want to keep that the same. Grade item. This is how you actually associate it. So I built these 2 grade items before from this drop-down box. I'm going to select that. Here's a rubric specific just to this assignment. Okay. And I'm going to just select save because, again, what the restrictions here allow, this is where you set up the dates when you want something. A due date is just a suggested time when you're giving students, this is when I'm recommending that you submit it by. A start date will tell students this is when the assignment actually begins. An end date will actually cut off students from submitting anything. So if you don't put an end date in and just have a due date, students will still be able to submit past this date, but it'll show up as being late, and you'll see that as, but if you put an end date in, they won't be able to submit, okay? And then release, you have, special access. This is used, you can use this for groups. If you're doing group assignments, you can choose to either by user or by group. Say if you have a student that has received special permission from SARC to need a longer period of time to do an assignment, you can choose a user. This is a demonstration student. And then you can choose, give them a longer period of time, to do the assignment, okay? The same feature will show up for quizzes as well, okay? But that's under restrictions. But the main thing is to say that under properties, that I selected down here the grade item assignment. I'm going to select save and close. And now I'm going to go to, and now you see this little key here. I'm going into grades and manage grades. And now this is filled in, this associate. So that means when a student has submitted an assignment and you've graded it, where the assignment is in the Dropbox, it will populate into the grade book here, okay? It'll show up right in here. If you don't associate it, you'll still have these areas, but then you'll have to manually type in each individual student. So it just saves you one step, and it's, so doing that association, again, doing the same thing for quizzes, and also for discussions, the same thing. You can set up the associations for that. Okay. Let's see. Any questions for that?
No questions.
Okay. Good. So we're actually doing pretty well on time. Let me go to the okay. So here we're actually going to start talking about creating quizzes. Okay. And,
Stephen?
Yep.
Oh, this is appropriate. Once you get through this section, there is a question. Is there a way to set up quizzes so that students will know which questions were incorrect? So you may answer that as you complete the next task.
Yeah, try and remind me if I,
okay.
Okay. Let's go back. Okay. Let's go to content. Okay, so for quizzes, they're under the main timeline, main link up here under assessments, quizzes. Okay, this is where you can actually set up quizzes. Okay, so you can create a new quiz. Okay, this is a test one that I made up, but basically you just do new quiz, and I'm going to say demo quiz, and I'll tell you the quiz is empty. There's no category at this time. If I created a quizzes category, you can select that, and it would you could attach it so that it would link and be indented. Here's a description and introduction. Again, these are options. You can allow hints, disabling right click if you want to. Notification email, this gives you, so you can put your email in so that you're notified when a student has submitted a quiz. Again, restrictions. Again, the same thing for, that was for assignments, due date, start date, end date, okay? You can hide it from users if you choose. If you're still working on it, you can choose. The same thing also for assignments. There is a hide from users. You can do that. When you start adding dates in, you have the option to display it in the calendar. So that way it'll populate everything in the calendar so the students will see. Again, this is more for, there's, if you were doing passwords, if you had a quiz that was monitored, you know, either in a classroom setting or now by a proctored, like a proctoring software. This is the timing of the exam, so you could put in a recommended time limit, or you can enforce the time limit. And there are various options right here. Special access, similar to assignments. If you want a special access, if you have a student has recommendations from SARC to be able to take a quiz that lasts longer, you can choose to do that. You can give them a longer, you know, a longer period of time. And this is where you would choose the user from, because all your students would populate in here. I'm going to cancel out of that. And assessment. Again, this is where you would actually create the association. So if I had, if I created a quiz 2 grade item, it would show up here, but I haven't done that, you know, so, but that's where you would associate it. And by doing that, and by selecting this automatic grade, once you've graded, once a quiz or an exam has been graded, it will automatically populate into the grade book. And that's if you have a quiz or an exam that can be automatically graded by Folio. So if you have a true, false, or multiple choice, those kind of things, or matching, those can be automatically graded. If you choose to put in something like a short answer or a written response, you have to go in and grade it before it will populate into the grade, and before the full grade will enter. So so that's where, but again, if we go back to here, this is where you would add questions, and these are the type of questions. This is a new system that we have here. I'm going to select add. Okay. Now, one thing, by doing this new question, this shows you all the types of questions that are available. You'd be putting a question directly into a quiz, okay? And that's fine, but to be a little bit more flexible, say if you wanted to give a pool of, you create a pool of questions that you want students, a quiz to be generated. Say if you have 50 questions and you want 10 questions to be pulled from that pool bank, and each student gets a different amount. Instead of the quiz, you want to go to what's called a question library, and you can start by creating new and creating a new section, and you could call this whatever this might be, chapter 1 questions. I don't know, whatever it is that you're doing. Okay. I'm going to select save, and it basically puts This is basically just a folder where the questions will be. Now, again, you can manually put in all these questions, but there's a software that allows you to import questions called Respondus. And it's different. There's a Respondus lockdown browser, and there's a Respondus monitor, which is a proctoring system. But Respondus, the software, is a very easy way of taking a Word document and making, if as long as it's formatted in the correct way, you can import it directly into your pool, okay, your question library. And here's a bunch of questions that I already made, very basic questions. So this is in the question library. So what I'm going to do is show you how to make that pool of questions. Let's get out of, again, this can be confusing. So I'm going to go to this test quiz. Okay. And I've already imported these questions. Oh, no, I didn't do it from that. So what I'm going to do is add edit questions. Okay, import browse question library. So here I'm going to select it from this. I have 6 questions in here. I'm going to select, you have the option of selecting all those questions by doing that, or you may choose to just select a couple questions, but I'm going to select all of them. And I'm going to select add. Okay. And this choose to shuffle questions within a section. Okay. And actually add. You really want to do, what I should have done is do a question pool. I'm sorry, so I'm going to do chapter 1. And I want to select 5 questions. You can choose, you want to do 5 points per questions. I'm going to go, and this is where you actually import. It won't let me do that because I've already selected it, but let's do these questions here, academic questions. Actually, it's already imported as well. Let me cancel, get out of here. Let me delete that so that I can show you what that. Let me delete that, all of it. Okay. Add question pool. Okay. Okay, so I want to select 5 questions, browse the library. From this. Okay, so, and I'm going to say, so there were 6 questions in that library folder. I'm going to say 5 points per, if I select save. So now this quiz, if I go back, this quiz now will randomly pull 5 questions out of the 6. Okay, so, and it's given 5 points each. So that's a way of creating random a pool of questions. So that's if you can do it again as, again, just putting questions in by themselves, or you can create a pool of questions if you want to have more of a random quiz.
Steve, okay, if you could go up to the top and select that tab that says submission views.
Right.
Isn't this where they can set up a view
Yes,
for their students to
right,
see which questions were answered correctly or incorrectly?
right. So the default view is already set up so that students will see things immediately. Will they show questions? No. Statistics? No. But you can add, okay, and this is where you would choose, do you want to show the question? And these are where the options that you have. Do you want to show question answers, show question score, out of score? Do you want to show questions answered incorrectly? Okay. And do you want to show the answers? So here would be, you know, you would see if you opted for this, the questions answered incorrectly would be given and the answers. Okay. You can choose. So that's where you'd want to, and then you'd want to save it. You want to give it a name. Okay, so this is a new submission, whatever you choose. Okay, save it. Okay, and if I select it, save and close. Now this one, this new test carries all that information for what you want that quiz to do. Okay, so you have to give it a name, but it's under submission views.
Right, and it's recommended that you do create a customized view for your students.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I don't see any other questions, Steve. I was just going to see if we could review the question library and the pools because we don't do this that often, and I swear I think I've confused myself now.
I did, and I made it.
No, you did fine. It's just my mind was going, God, it's been so long since I've done this. But let me give an example. So if I was an instructor and wanted to give a midterm, I could create a question library called midterm. And if I had questions, then I could create a pool of questions for like chapters 1 through 5, and a pool of questions from 6 through 10, and a pool of questions from 11 to 15. So when I go to create my midterm, would I go into my question library called midterm and then choose whatever questions I want from, say, 5 questions from chapters 1 through 5 pool, and 5 questions, from chapter 6 through 10 pool.
Right. You would want to, I would probably create, you could do a midterm,
question library.
Question library.
Okay.
And then inside, you can actually create a section that is for, so you could put chapter 1 through 5 questions, chapter 6 through 10 questions, and then you would upload those. And so then you could import your midterm based on questions from however many sections that you want to do.
Right. So if I had a section that had 20 questions, but I only wanted 5, then I could just say randomly choose 5 questions from this section.
Yes.
Okay. That makes sense.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see. Upload. Where are we now? Okay. The course homepage. Okay, let's go out of here. Again, this is the course homepage.
So we just finished the set up a quiz, and now we're just going to go over navigating through Folio.
All right. Let me go back to the, okay. So on your course homepage, what you're going to see is if you use a template, there are 3 different news items or announcements that are automatically put in place. But this is the area for news announcements that you can actually create for yourself. This is where the calendar is, okay? You have the main links going across, okay, that you can access for content, grades for the grade book, edit course like we showed you for importing. You have assessments, which give you for Dropbox assignment quizzes. Here's where you can create rubrics. You can create self-assessments and surveys. Under communication, there's a chat area. This is the old-fashioned chat, you know. You have a class list that'll just show you everyone that's in your class. And what's nice is that you'll actually see when they last accessed your course, okay? There's the discussion forums themselves. Here's the questions for the professor, which is a nice area that that can be used for students to ask general questions, you know, about what's going on in the course, and you can answer the question and the entire class could see it and benefit from those questions. Obviously, if it's something that's more private or personal, you'd want them to email you. Here's where you have module discussion areas already put in place. Is one for student introductions. Again, you can modify this. We've already pre-built discussions. These are blank discussions like the assignments. So if you want to add a discussion forum question, you could add that in, put some information in of what you want them to do. Okay. And what else is the email? There's the email functionality. This I find, you know, the Folio email can be a bit confusing because up here at the very top, you'll see this little envelope. You might see like a little asterisk, a red asterisk telling you that you have a message, and then you go to a course and you don't see anything in your email. But this filtering thing, you have to check, because if you have multiple courses, it could be in a bunch of different courses, you know, that it may not be in the course that, so you want to keep an eye out for the email. And some faculty like to use the email within Folio and keep everything all self-contained. Some faculty like to use their Georgia Southern email. Again, that's a personal thing, how you want students to respond to you, okay? But you have the options for communication. Again, if I go under content, would be creating a news announcement. Again, up here, you go to the news tool and you can create a new news item, and you would just give it a title. Welcome to week 2. Okay, and you can write in what you want to say to your students. This gives you an option, not for more than just text. You can put in an image. You can, you know, this little camera icon allows you to put in an image. This little icon allows you to add videos, okay? And we're going to talk about the different types of videos, specifically Kaltura, coming up. But the most common thing is just to put in some text. Oops. Okay, and I'm gonna, here's where you can actually set when it's going to, so you can actually set a start date. This is already set for right now, so you can just publish it. But if you want to set it for sometime in the future, you can do that. You can set an end date, so when it's removed, okay? So I'm going to select publish, and you'll see that it's there. Now if I go back to Bootcamp here, you'll see this is the new news item that I published. So this is a nice way that faculty, and I think students will more likely see this kind of, may pay more attention to an announcement than they do to an email. But you could try using both. Here's the calendar, okay, and again, with the assignment and then the quizzes showing, so that's another way of you can add different calendar events that you can communicate with your students, that you want them something specific other than, you could say, remember the first exam is coming up, and give a date. So you can use the calendar as a way of communicating with your students. Okay. And along with that, we're going to also just cover talking about how to activate a course. Okay. Now, we talked about edit course before when we imported the Folio template, but under here, course, under site setup, there's a course offering information, and down here, there's a check mark to say that the course is active. So you want to make sure that before the course starts that is selected. Otherwise, students won't be able to access or enter your course. Okay. Faculty have another option from their Georgia Southern portal, which as a staff member that Julie and I don't have, but they also have under there's a Folio section, they'll have a list of courses, and they'll have an ability to activate their course there. Okay, so that's another option, but again, you can do it directly through the course itself. Okay, I'm going to select save. Let's see some other features. Again, you have profile. Again, this is where you can upload a picture of yourself. You can choose to put in a nickname if you choose to do. You can leave it blank. Again, if you put contact information, you could put your Georgia Southern email in there. Again, this is, again, personal information. If you want to put in interests and hobbies and whatnot, here's social media networks. Again, you don't have to do this. This is purely optional. Under notifications, this is something that's good. You can, again, here's where I set that any kind of notification is set to come to me in Georgia Southern. So when I get an email sent to me in Folio, I'll get a notification that I have an email. Okay, and this is something helpful that you might want to recommend to students, is these instant notifications. So here has content been updated. If you can tell them, if they select any of these, they can choose to be notified when something has been changed. Here has a discussion, a new post and a discussion. A Dropbox, has an assignment feedback been updated, or has feedback been released? So here's about grades, so it's something that you may want to, consider talking to your students about, so that they can be notified, again, by email, whether or not that something has happened. Okay. Any questions there before we move on to video?
No questions.
Okay. So this is the last part, and again, we have a whole workshop related to this. So we're not going to, again, similar to everything here, it's going to give kind of an overview of using of videos. And one of the things about that, we talk about adding video. Again, you may not feel comfortable with putting video of yourself in, but one of the things that's helpful for an online course is that it brings in what we call instructor presence, and students get to identify you and get to feel more comfortable with you as an instructor, when they know and they hear you and know about you. So by adding, even if it's an introductory video, it might be something you may consider doing. Okay. Now, again, from along the top line of links, there's this more, and right down below, the very first option here is My Media. Now, this brings you to what's called Kaltura. Kaltura is a video and audio software that's built into Folio, and it's the easiest way of bringing video and audio into your course. Okay. Now, when I opened it up, I have a library of videos that I've done demonstration. Here's just audio. You can do a podcast if you do just an audio. You won't see anything the first time you do it. But what you want to do, once you enter into the My Media, the very first step is when you go Add New, there's this option called Kaltura Personal Capture. And what's going to happen is that, and it won't for me, but you'll need to yourself. For me, because I've already downloaded the software, the tool for using Kaltura opens up. The very first time you use it, you'll need to either download for Windows or Mac, whichever kind of computer you're using, software. And you only have to do that once, but you need to do it for each computer that you're using. So say if you have a work computer in your office and then you have a home computer, those are two separate things. You'll need to download the software for each individual computer. But once you've downloaded it, when you select Kaltura Personal Capture, you'll see this, this tool bar right here. And it's very simple. It takes us a little bit of practice. It's a very, very straightforward process. There are 3 different icons up here. There's one for a camera, which is a web camera that I have that's associated. You may have a laptop that has a camera built in. It'll detect that. Okay. The next one is for screen. So you may choose to do a screencast video. So say if you have a PowerPoint presentation and you want to do like a little bit of a lecture, you can talk over the PowerPoint. You can do that. This one is for audio. Okay. And so with all of these selected, it's a very light blue color. What you're going to have is both your camera and your screen being recorded along with your voice, and you'll have a little picture, sort of like a picture-in-picture. If all you want is just a video with your voice, you would click the screen, and you could see a cross going through there. So right now, only my camera and voice is going to be recorded. And what I would do is just click the red button. It gives me a countdown. And I don't know if you can see it. I'll move it up. You can see that it's counting down. It's created 7 seconds. And if you want to pause it, you can do that. If you want to take a break, you can resume recording. And then if you want to stop it, it'll give you a warning. Are you sure you want to stop it? I'm going to say yes. And then basically it brings this, creates this video for you. Okay. To make it available for your course, you want to select Save and Upload. Okay. And it'll take a while here. It's the process of uploading it. Okay.
Steve, a question. Where is it uploading it to?
This uploads, Kaltura has a cloud, okay, and it uploads it to a cloud that is set apart, that's parceled for Georgia Southern, okay. So you can choose to download the video to your computer, but it's not the best way of sharing it with your students because the video files are very large, and so you really want to, it's like as if you were uploading to YouTube. If you had a YouTube video and you streamed it off of the Kaltura server. Okay, so I'm going to click out of here. If I go to not calendar, I want to go more media, and what's eventually going to happen once it's uploaded and processed, it's going to show up here. It hasn't shown yet. It takes a little bit of time. But what you're going to see is there's two little designations. Here it says private. This means that this video has not been shared into a course yet. Published means that it's actually been shared into a course. But it doesn't mean it's still your video, and no one has access to it other than you until you actually, put it into a course, and I'll show that how that's done. Okay. Eventually that video that I just did will show up there. The other nice thing about this is that Kaltura will create, is that the video? August 3rd, yeah, okay. I don't think it's shown up in the, nope, it's still not in my library, okay. But Kaltura will actually create closed captions for you. And that's very simple to do. And that, again, is helpful for creating accessibility in your course. Even for students, there's some people who like you, just like some people like watching TV with captions on. Some students prefer having captions. So, but specifically even for just accessibility purposes, that's really, really strongly suggested. Another thing you can do with Kaltura, if you have this media upload, if you've created a video through a cell phone or through another video, you can upload that to the Kaltura, into Kaltura, into Folio, and then you can use that in your course. Okay. Kaltura also has, and this is a little bit more advanced, you can see this option here, quiz. This actually, Kaltura actually can create little quiz questions for you. So if I click this, and I'm going to do edit, launch the editor. This one already has quiz questions, but here there's a whole process. This little cube starts the process if it hasn't already, but it gives you details, the name of the quiz, you can change it, a welcome message if you choose to do that. Do you want students to download questions from it? Do you want to add instructions? It talks about scores. Do you want to allow multiple attempts? Do you want to not show the scores? So all of this is available. This is experience. Do you allow answers to change? So do you want them to change their answers before submitting? So a lot of different features, but the type of questions you can add, you have multiple choice, true, false, a reflection point, which really isn't a question. It's just a space somewhere in the video that you add text to talk about, asking students to think about what they just saw, or maybe in the next section of the video you'll be watching such and such. So it's kind of this an area of, to give some thought. And then you have an open-ended question, so you can ask a question, and it'll be in the quiz. And the nice thing about that is that it actually, the quiz questions, except for open-ended questions, will actually populate into your gradebook once a student takes a quiz. Okay. You can get the answers for an open-ended question, but you have to go into an analytics section. Let's see if I can get out of, go to media page. Under actions, there's an analytics section, which is kind of nice because it tells, it'll tell by user up here, how many attempts that they made. You know, it'll give the score. You can export to a CSV file, you can print it out. You can look at specifically to quiz questions. Nothing is showing up here because no student has actually taken this quiz. But it's a really neat feature. And again, it'll show up in the grade book. It won't show until a student actually takes the quiz for the first time. Okay. And to show you what you can do with those Kaltura videos is, say you want to, say if I wanted to add a video to this announcement. Okay. And in this area where you have kind of a word processing, the very first tool called Insert Stuff is this Add Kaltura Media. And what's going to happen is going to upload, up here's the video that I just did, okay? But it'll show all the videos in your media file, media library. You're going to select Embed. And Insert. Okay. And then I'm going to select Update. Okay. So here you have a video. Okay, I won't do that, play it, but you can put it in an announcement. You can put it in a lecture, because when you do an edit lecture, you have the same options. When you select Edit HTML, you have the same Insert Stuff. Okay. Students have access to, so students can actually use this, and if you want to create a video that they submit as part of an assignment, they can submit it as part of a discussion forum. Okay, so that's another reason for students for using Kaltura, because students have access to it. Another thing that you can use along with Kaltura videos, but you may have YouTube videos that you've actually, here you can actually search for a video, YouTube video, but what you'd want to do more likely is, let me see if I could find a, let's see if I could find a reasonable, oh boy, let's see. Okay, well, let's see. I'm going to take this video here, and right from the share button, there's this first option. You have all these options. Is embed, and all this code. You don't have to understand it, but you can select copy it. There's a copy. And what I'm going to do now is go to enter embed code from that Insert Stuff. If I paste it in, next, and insert. So here you have a video placed directly on a lecture page from YouTube. Okay. So that's a nice, and you always want to make sure that you save it. So you could put a link in for a YouTube video, but having it right in place is really a nice feature. If you take something from YouTube, it's always recommended that you put basically the source, that if it's where this particular thing came from, so here you might say, this is from YouTube, Rory O'Malley as King George III in Hamilton. So it's helpful, useful for putting in where the video came from, and just as a way of putting in a citation. Okay.
Question, Steve. I'm not sure if you already said this. Do students have access to Kaltura?
Yes. So students have access to Kaltura, so they can go in and they can, if they had a, let me see if I can do this as a student. If I go to assessments, Dropbox. So say if I wanted to, here, so add Kaltura Media. So they can create a Kaltura Media within or an assignment. They can do the same for a discussion. So under discussion 1, if I say start a thread, again, the same word processing format. They have insert, add Kaltura Media. They can, so
they can access Kaltura the same way as you. They just go through the navigation toolbar, My Media. Is that correct?
My Media, right. They will generally have. It might not be, because faculty and staff they're not going to have edit course. They'll have content grades, assessments, communication, resource. So it might actually be up on the main line.
Right, it was. When you were in student view, it just said My Media.
Right. So students can access it the same exact way. And they have to do the same thing, though, each time that they do it. The very first time, they're going to have to remember to, there finally showed up the one that I just did in there, and it says published because I added it to the news announcement. But they're going to have to do, when they go to Kaltura Personal Capture, they're going to have to download it to whatever computer they have. Okay. And for captions, just before we move away from that, YouTube does them automatically. Kaltura, you generally have to request captions under actions, caption and enrich. That's actually something new. That enrich, caption and enrichment services. It's done by machine. So that means it's not always going to be completely accurate. They say that the captions are probably 70%, 75% accurate, but you can actually go in and edit the captions. Okay, media source. I don't see any production test. So this is something new that I get, that LTS must be testing, because it's usually usually
I know.
I don't remember seeing enrichment services, but all you do is just say submit. I get a message that requests your video would automatically be updated upon completion. Right here it says pending eventually, and it might take, depending on the length of the video, it might take a little bit of time, but it will appear. So that's really the useful thing about captions.
Steve, so what about the length of time for a video, say a lecture video?
Yeah.
And where do I store it? It seems like I read an email recently that it's recommended to store it in the cloud because it processes
Yes.
faster or maybe it's easier. I don't remember the details.
Right. Well, for videos, um, you really don't want to go for like an introductory video if you're introducing yourself, or if you're doing like a maybe an intro to a module or introduction to like a topic or whatever. You don't want to really go more than like 4 or 5 minutes. I mean, that's, and maybe for an introduction, it might be like 2 or 3 minutes. You don't really want to do anything long. If you're going to do a lecture video, and a lot of faculty who have do these screencast videos with a PowerPoint and they're lecturing. I mean, if you're up in the front of a classroom, you might be doing it for 30 minutes or longer, but you don't want to do it for that long. I would recommend, probably like 9-10 minutes at tops. And you can continue longer, but break them up. We call it sort of chunking your content. So try and think of an area that might be, the first section might be like 8 minutes long or 5 minutes long. The next section might be 10 minutes long, but break it up. It'll make it much easier for students won't have that attention span of sitting and watching a 30-minute video or a 60-minute video. They'll lose attention very quickly. So that's the one thing. The other thing, like I said, is make sure that for like Kaltura, upload it to the cloud. Use the cloud, or if some faculty like to use YouTube, and you can upload your videos to YouTube. That also allows the video to be streamed from the YouTube server, the YouTube cloud, and that makes it easier for students to access. Bandwidth is a major issue, and if you can upload a whole video with its full content up into your course, but students will probably not be able to play it if they're using a wireless internet access, or if they're playing it from someplace that has a very low bandwidth. So you really don't want to upload your videos directly into Folio. You want to either use Kaltura, YouTube. Another option that some faculty have is Screencast-O-Matic. That's a free tool that you can create your videos, and they actually have their own cloud server. You're limited to a 15-minute video, and it has a little bit of a watermark. Let me see if I could find. But the one thing that's not good about Screencast-O-Matic is that it will not provide captions for you. So again, you have a free version. You can get an educational version, which is let's see, $1.65 monthly. But all you really need is the free version. You can create your videos in Screencast-O-Matic and choose to upload it to Kaltura using the way that I showed earlier under media upload. So that's another option, but I think definitely use either Kaltura or YouTube for the streaming capabilities, and also for the ability to provide captioning. Okay, anything else?
Those are all the questions. I just was going to do a little infomercial advertising our webinars for this month. So I added a link in the chat so you can take a look at our events calendar. We have several webinars offered in August, and you're welcome to join us for those.
Okay. And again, like I said, we went through a lot of content. The grade book might be confusing, you know, setting up, library questions might be confusing. Using Respondus to upload questions into Folio. Those are things that please feel free to reach out, if you'd like help with that. That's what we're here for. Again, this is being recorded. As soon as it's ready and available, we'll send this out to you for your purpose of reviewing. So you'll have this to fall back on. Okay.
Great. Thank you. Good
Okay.
job.
Okay. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I know it's a lot for an evening, and hopefully you will, you've learned enough to help you get started. Okay. Very
Right.
good. I'm going to stop the recording. Okay.